Okay, it looks like we are up and going. Can you guys hear me? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Wonderful, thank you. Again, thank you and for joining us today and joining us for this talk on reaching beyond your title. If I look off the screen, I'm kind of doing some reading, so I just kind of direct you through this path. For those of you that just joined us, if you have any questions, I invite you to put your questions into the chat and we'll address them as we go along. And let me take a moment to introduce myself. I'm Sandy Zalmuth. I'm from the Women of Color Task Force, and I'm supporting our speaker. I am joined by Diane Brinson, who is also the Women of Color Task Force, and she also is supporting our speaker today. And our speaker is Vance Jackson Jr. He serves in the mayor's office as a social impact development officer. In this role, he serves as a five-member development team. He serves on a five-member development team that has raised more than $1 billion, and that's billion with a B, in public, private, and philanthropic and corporate investments. In his role, he integrates his background in banking and philanthropy to advise government leaders, corporate executives, and philanthropic leaders on the implementation and execution of mayoral priorities to strategically serve the residents of the city of Detroit. Prior to joining the mayor's office in 2018, Vance served more than a decade at JP Morgan, where his financial career spanned across the breadth of global banking. In his last role, he served in JP Morgan's commercial bank, middle market treasury, where he specialized in constructing global treasury solutions for multinational middle market corporations, with annual revenues ranging from 100 million to 2 billion. As a treasury analyst at JP Morgan's Michigan middle market treasury team, prior to advancing to the commercial bank, Vance served as a wealth management vice president financial advisor, where he managed multi-million-dollar investment books for businesses. In his role, he led development and coached investment sales teams to provide a vast array of investment solutions for clientele across the Detroit market. Vance has been fortunate to serve as an executive board member for several national nonprofit and for-profit organizations. Currently, Vance serves as a national board member for the for-profit Emerging Leaders Advisory Board at Huntington Bank, a 150 billion publicly traded bank, where he advises on industry insights, corporate social responsibility recommendations, and strategic execution for national banking strategies. Vance, excuse me, Vance holds a bachelor's degree and a master's in social work from the University of Michigan, go Blue, and currently serves as the University of Michigan Social Work Alumni Board of Governors as one of the social board members. Vance is married to Nina Jackson and for more than 13 years, and they reside in Detroit with their two children. Welcome, Vance, everybody. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sandy, and thank you, everyone. This is truly an honor and privilege. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me, because here in Detroit, we've had some power outages. And so I want to make sure that you guys can hear me, thumbs up or anything. You guys, okay, awesome, awesome. Well, the first and foremost, thank you so much for the privilege of serving. It is an honor. I'm thankful for Rachel, who reached out to me to do the presentation. And for those of you who are just joining or you're listening via recording, the title of this presentation is Building Bridges, Leading Beyond Your Title and Comfort Zone. I've had the privilege of serving in a number of capacities in corporate America, as well as in the public sector as well, without a large title, but I had the privilege of extending my skill set, background, and just honored to serve in numerous capacities. And in this role, in this presentation, we're going to go over a few tips, strategies on how to lead beyond your comfort zone, how to lead beyond your title, and even if you have a title, how to still make impact within your community. So let's just jump right into it. The first objective that we're going to go over today is learn how to build coalitions across various industries by serving on boards of businesses and nonprofits or nonprofit organizations. It's interesting that, so my background, I'm in social work. I have a master's in social work. I've had the privilege of serving on numerous nonprofit and for-profit boards. But I have a passion for financial literacy. So with those two different dynamics of financial literacy and social work, I really wanted to build nonprofits that would either teach financial literacy or give businesses, executives, the financial capacity to one, either write grants or seek funding on how to build a strong organization. Well, after graduating from the University of Michigan School of Social Work, Go Blue, I served in JP Morgan as a started off as a personal banker, personal licensed banker within JP Morgan. And it was a really awesome opportunity where I had the privilege of learning about the financial industry and learning about just basic personal finance and personal management of resources. And as I walked through that process, it was really interesting that I had the privilege of connecting with many nonprofits within the organization. So organizations would come into the bank and ask for resources, or organizations would connect with me outside of the bank in personal networking circles. And they would ask, how could we, one, either obtain resources, or how could we obtain a stronger financial status within our community? At the time, I was a personal banker, so I really didn't have any say on how to direct resources. And sometimes, as many of you know, as social workers or as someone that's on the lower ranking part of an organization, burnout, as well as you don't have access to resources as immediate as you would like, but you have a heart and you want to help as many people as possible. Well, what I found out was that I was a valuable commodity to many nonprofits based upon my passion, based upon my professional background, and the resources that I did have. I did have the opportunity to learn about JP Morgan's financial suite of products. Many of you have access to resources within your own organizations. You are an expert at your job. You're an expert at connecting people with resources. You are an expert at how to direct people within the university and outside of the university. And the knowledge, the skill set, the wisdom that you have can be leveraged to, what I found out was serving on boards of nonprofits. So when I served on my first board, it was a community development corporation, a multi-million-dollar organization within the city of Detroit. It's called CDC, Central Christian Detroit. And they oversaw a portfolio of it was 20 million, I think, in residential real estate, and then 50 million, I think, in commercial real estate. And I had the privilege of serving on the board and helping them guide their strategy and direct them and navigate them through 2008, the crisis of the global collapse. And it was interesting that banks at the time weren't giving out resources in that manner. So we had to get really creative. So when you're leading beyond your comfort zone, and when you're leading in the current role that you're in, it's interesting that you can use your past experiences, no matter your story, no matter your background, no matter the professional pedigree that you have, whether you have, most of us, I believe, have a degree, or if you're in school now and you're a student and you're looking to obtain your degree as a bachelorette, it's interesting that you can provide your student perspective as well. But it was interesting that when I served on this first board back in 2008, it was at a time when banks not only weren't giving resources, but then also it was a time when nonprofits were struggling. Nonprofits and businesses were collapsing. And we had to come up with creative strategies on how to connect people with resources within the community and outside of the community. So when you're leading beyond your comfort zone, or you're trying to build coalitions within your specific field and outside of your specific field, thinking outside of the box. I know that we have many people on this call, ranging from students all the way to PhD holders. And I want to make sure that we cover the scope of all who are listening. So if you're a student, it's interesting that we want to hear your perspective. As a nonprofit board member of a local organization, as well as a global organization, we'll get into that later, you don't have to be intimidated as a student to give your perspective, to give your insight. Your perspective and your insight as a student gives credibility and relevance to many organizations. There are many organizations who are getting out of touch with the community and the base that they serve. And to listen to the student, to listen to the younger generation, to listen to their insights, their perspectives, their not only their background, but how to not just navigate social media, but how to contribute to that specific organization. When you're looking to serve on a board of a nonprofit, it's interesting that you can volunteer first within the organization. And as you're volunteering, whether that's a community cleanup, whether that's you're providing insight to the executive director, or whether that you are just giving advice to some of the employees there, it's interesting that many of the nonprofits would ask you to either serve on a committee or a advisory board, or if they see that your skill set is valuable to the organization, sometimes they would even bring you on as a board member, as a student, to become that student representative and or a community representative. There are many nonprofit boards within the city of Detroit, within the state of Michigan, that incorporates the community's voice, and they actually have them on the board themselves. Instead of having a community advisory board or a student advisory board, to have that perspective within the board's framework itself, it's vital to the organization, the sustainability of the organization, and the longevity. So if you're looking to build your network, if you're looking to rise in your corporation or organization, or you're looking, if you started a nonprofit and you're looking to expand your scope, serving on the board of another organization to sow your skill, to give you and lend and gift your skill set, will not only increase your notoriety in the community, but also it'll help you to think outside of the box of your own organization. Many times we're stuck in a tunnel vision. We're stuck in a silo where we are doing our job, we're consistently executing, and we're doing great, but we're not getting the voice of other businesses or other nonprofits or other executives. Serving in the mayor's office, it's been a privilege to listen to not just the community, but then also other corporations, nonprofits, as well as philanthropic executives that have amazing ideas, and they've executed on various strategies, and to hear the different perspectives is amazing. So as a student, if you're looking to serve, I would highly recommend that you volunteer first. And as you're volunteering, people will actually tap you to serve in a higher capacity. If you're a mid-level professional and you are in your career and you're journeying and you're trying to figure out exactly what are you trying to go up the executive ranking? Are you trying to move up in your organization? Are you trying to start your own nonprofit? Are you trying to start your own business? What you're like in the midway point, and you're trying to just figure it out. it's interesting as you're trying to figure it out, and as you're trying to move up or across the ladder, serving on a nonprofit board will give you the insight that you would need to, one, build out your skill set, whether it's a financial acumen, if you're looking to one, become the CFO of an organization. Oh, I'm a new father of two as well. So I have a 1-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So I do apologize if you hear babies in the background, and it's been a delight, especially during the pandemic, trying to navigate that. So work-life balance, and you're in a mid-level career and you're trying to figure it out, and you're trying to balance family, you're trying to build out your skill set as you're serving on the board of a nonprofit, or as you're helping someone build out their own business as a consultant, or just giving your advice and feedback, building outside of your comfort zone and building outside of, you're trying to build a skill set of whether it's financial acumen or strategy. When you're sowing your gift, when you're sowing your skill, or you're able to learn about how other treasurers within other organizations run their business. You're able to learn how other CFOs run their business. You're able to learn how other chief marketing officers learn how to deploy strategy. And even though you don't have that particular skill set just yet, as you're volunteering, as you are giving your own resources, you're able to lean upon their expertise as well. I've had the privilege of serving on a organization called the Legal Aid and Defender Association. And it was an amazing organization where they had the opportunity to provide legal services to the indigent, those in Southeast Michigan that one could not afford an attorney. Many of you know about the organization, but for those that don't, in the Miranda rights, when they say that, hey, if you don't have an attorney, one will be afforded to you, the public defender. Well, the Legal Aid and Defender Association wasn't the organization that provided, one of the organizations that provided the public defender. And I had the privilege of serving on a organization that oversaw 250 attorneys. Even though I wasn't an attorney in particular, I'm not an attorney or practicing law, or I wasn't in the justice system, I had the privilege of contributing my financial background to the organization. And as I contributed what I did know to the organization, it was interesting to hear about the entire scope of the products and services and the programs that they offered. Even though it wasn't in my field as a banker, my background in social work or community organizing and volunteerism helped me learn about other industries. And as other board members came on, from attorneys to accountants to business leaders, it's a business incubator. It's an incubator where you're able to knowledge share and you're able to figure out what is the next step. What, if you're a mid-career, what is your next step? You're able to move beyond your comfort zone and connect with attorneys or connect with professionals that you're looking, if you're looking to go to law school, if you're looking to switch your career and grab your MBA mid-career, if you're looking to obtain another degree, you're able to look at people who are serving on not only these boards, but who are volunteering in your community. I know that the pandemic has presented a lot of challenges of us connecting with one another, but Zoom and virtual formats like this help us to connect faster, and you're able to reach out to individuals quickly. You can reach out via LinkedIn, and as you're reaching out to them and expressing your concern or expressing your interest, many people, you'll be surprised, they'll be open to sharing their knowledge with you. So mid-career, as you are trying to figure it out, and as you're trying to figure out what is the next stage, the next phase of your life or your career, serving is an awesome opportunity to move to the next level. And
Vince, can I interrupt you right quick? I have a couple of questions that are coming up.
oh, thank you. Yes, absolutely, guys.
So the first question is, how did you feel comfortable moving between the financial world and nonprofit world? And is there something the individual indicates that this is something she really struggles with, that imposter syndrome in the finance business world? What advice would you have for building that out?
Absolutely. That's the same question. That's one person.
That's one person now. Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I had a passion for finance before I got into the nonprofit world. So my passion, so I learned about the stock. So just a quick background. I'm the oldest of 7, and in Detroit, we honestly we didn't have much resource, and my 2-parent household. My mom stayed at home because we had seven kids, and my father was a primary breadwinner. And when we did receive resource, it was interesting that my parents wanted to figure out exactly how to manage it. And what I found out, not just access to capital, but access to intellectual capital, access to knowledge was a deficit when I was in high school, so early 90s, late 90s or high school. And in college, I made sure I threw myself in learning anything about the stock market. So I read books. I watched CNBC. Even though I didn't understand what was happening, I just immersed myself into it. And then I learned how to. I took my financial aid checks and I started to slowly invest. I went to the bank and literally opened up a bank account, a brokerage account. I didn't know what exactly it was, but I just threw myself in it. So technically, I wouldn't just recommend throwing yourself in it. It's cool to do that, but also when you're surrounding yourself with people who have done it before. So there are grant writers, there are treasury officers, there are, if you are very passionate, just to be very frank, if you're passionate about something in the nonprofit world, if you have a desire to mentor youth, if you have a desire to feed the homeless, whatever organization that you have a passion for, or the services that they provide, I would recommend one, volunteering with them first. Second, if you're looking to get into finance, or if you're looking to learn more about the finances of that organization, ask how do you fundraise? How can I help you fundraise? Throwing yourself in the mix. Any nonprofit, almost any nonprofit. If you say, hey, I would love to help you fundraise, how can I help? They'll they'll be more than willing to put you on some type of financial committee to help them.
We have a follow-up in that same area. I'm sorry to interrupt you, in the same area. So the question that's following is, since there's usually a financial component, whether that is a commitment to give or fundraising itself to a nonprofit board, what advice do you offer for those who don't have that kind of that financial capacity or that skill set, so that they can be involved in, and how do they grow that network to raise those funds?
Oh, so what I found, what I found was that there are people who don't necessarily have the actual capital to serve on a board. They would, I was one of those, I was one. And it's interesting that if you're just transparent and you tell the organization, I don't have the capital now to contribute, but I would love to contribute. So in-kind services, I would love to contribute my network, my knowledge base. If you are looking to learn how to fundraise, you can be transparent and say, I don't have the resources now, but I'm very passionate about X, Y, Z, and I would love to learn more about how to fundraise. I would love to help this organization thrive. As you're expressing your concern, as you're expressing yourself to many organizations, I found that one, you're able to open the door that way. If they can't put you on the board at that time, you're definitely not only on their radar, but you become either a friends of the organization, or you can serve on the advisory board precursor to the board as well. Don't let financial resources stop you from moving up an organization, whether it's a board, in a board capacity, or in a strategic capacity. If you do not have the resources, don't let that stop you. To learn more about it, I found that treasurers, as well as CFOs, are more than willing to, of nonprofit organizations, are more than willing to help you. They'll allow you to serve on the committee so that you're able to learn more about the organization, sometimes the dire straits of the organization, but then sometimes there are organizations that have endowments, or they have a vast amount of resources, but they still need the bandwidth to help deploy resources. So they need people who are the analyst role, or they're on the lower level to carry some of the weight, because a lot of CFOs, a lot of treasurers they have to report to the board, and they're on the strategy level. But as you're contributing your skill set, you're able to gift the organization your time. And so just because you don't have the resources now, it doesn't necessarily mean that'll stop you from them putting you on the board. And it's not just, I'm not just saying that. I literally have put people on boards that don't have the resources, but they have immense potential. They have immense professional and personal networks. They're trying to grow their network, but they're learning. Sometimes people who are just now entering, so students who are just now entering into the workforce, they don't have a professional network yet, and they don't have the resources yet. Grooming them to show them how to become a future leader, how to become, even if they're mid-career and they have family issues or family problems, or and they're just starting over, if you will, or they have a career shift. I've seen organizations, and I was personally part of decisions that put individuals on boards where capital doesn't necessarily act as a barrier. So I want to make sure that that's understood. I hope I answered that question, Sandy.
Thank you, Vance. I think so. I have a follow-up. Any suggestions on how to search for nonprofits that are looking for board members that match your values?
So because we have many people on this call from a variety of different backgrounds, it just depends upon your industry. So if you're in the corporate world, for example, for JP Morgan, that was me. They had board match. If you're serving in the public sector, in government, there are many fiduciaries that connect with government already. And then if you're in the academic sector, there are organizations that are partners with many of your departments. But the first step that I would take is simple volunteering with an organization. As you're volunteering with the organization, and your face, you're becoming very frequent with whether it's a food pantry or you're mentoring youth. As you are consistently volunteering, the management team will put you on their radar. And then as you are expressing your interest and saying, hey, I want to start my own nonprofit, or hey, I'd love to serve on a board like this. When board positions, they come up all the time, and we're always looking, or so nonprofit executives or nonprofit board members are always looking to place people on board. So if you're in the corporate world, typically it's an organization called Board Match, or it's a program that you can within your HR department, where you're able to connect with nonprofits that are already connected with your corporate entity. Many of the banks, if you're in the banking industry, give to nonprofits. Many consulting firms, if you're in the consulting industry, they already help lend their services to nonprofits. If you're a lawyer, there's a pro bono work that happens with many attorneys, and they connect with nonprofits as well. But the first step, I would say, is to volunteer. Second step is to express your interest, and then third, to again, always sow your gift.
All right, now we have a request for you.
Okay, yeah.
Could you talk more about your career progression and any challenges that you may have encountered?
Absolutely. So as I stated, I was in the banking industry, and I had the privilege of serving as a personal banker. And I had the immense opportunity to learn about the stock market, and learn about how to manage finances as a personal banker. But I really wanted to move up in the corporation. So I wanted to become it's called a wealth management financial advisor. So it was an advisor, it's a step above, or some massive step above of a personal banker, licensed banker, and you get to groom personal bankers, and you get to manage your own book of business. And I wanted to do that so bad. I'm like, oh man, I want to make this next move, but how do I do it? Well, the first one was to perform in your current role. No matter if you're in the nonprofit world, or if you're in the public sector, or if you're in the academic world, perform in your current position. As you're performing in your current position, your direct manager will be your biggest advocate in most cases, because you're performing for them. You are a great employee. You're consistent, and they will. A good manager and leader would love to help you progress. Well, I had the opportunity of having great managers that loved not just my performance, but our branch was like a performance level 1 of 1, and what that means is that you're number 1 in the country. And it was so awesome that we had national recognition, and basically they promoted me to the next phase. As I moved to the next phase, it was interesting that I had some challenges, because I was in the Detroit market. And the challenge was to grow an investment book of business in a market where that wasn't a major market for the firm. Well, within the city, I loved the city, and I loved finance, and I loved connecting people. So I made it my mission to build that book of business from scratch. So long story short, they expanded me from 2 branches to 7 branches, and they allowed me to build not just with various banking center managers, build with other organizations by bringing them in and helping them set up endowments, by helping them set up, teaching them about investment policies. Investment policies, teaching nonprofits about how to invest their endowment and how to ensure that it's equally balanced and all this other stuff. But I went outside of the box to build the book of business. And as I built the book of business, I had the privilege of working with other nonprofits that told nonprofits about what I was doing. And they actually put me on other boards as I was moving forward. So just being consistent and diligent in your current role. If you're passionate about your role, moving beyond your job description. No one told me to go network outside of the bank. No one told me to go and help other families outside of the bank. You can technically get referrals within the banking structure. Well, but beyond moving inside of the wealth management space, I really wanted to move my career from sales to strategy, and within Detroit, it's not New York, and it's not Texas, and it's not California. So there's lines of business that are siloed. So I really wanted to still move into the upper echelon of wealth, but I wanted to ensure that it aided to my career. So the commercial bank is a banking institution within JP Morgan that works with private, family-owned, multi-million-dollar businesses, as well as publicly traded companies as well. And to move into that space, you had to have a certain skill set. So moving into that space, I applied for the role, and I leveraged everything that I did outside of the bank. So from treasury, serving as a treasurer of a multi-million-dollar organization, serving in the financial committee of a CDC, the real estate development, nonprofit real estate development arm, just expressing everything that I did outside of the bank. And I had the privilege of serving as something called, this is a really critical one, it was called BOLD, Black Organization for Leadership Development within JP Morgan, and they're BRGs, they're business resource groups. So just like this organization, this task force is a task force within the University of Michigan. Corporations and nonprofits have affinity groups, or they have task force, or they have organizations where you're able to plug into that organization and get and plug in yourself, plug in your resources, plug in your time, and connect with other professionals. So when I expressed my BOLD, or BRG, Black Organization for Leadership Development experience, and it was to oversee I think 200 employees within JP Morgan, where we taught them about professional development, how to navigate JP Morgan, how to navigate their career, how to volunteer outside of your current role, how to communicate with your manager, how to move into the next phase of your career. So just leadership and professional development type of organization. And so when I expressed everything I was doing outside of my current role, the commercial bank saw that, and I was blessed for them to bring me to cross the lines of business and to bring me into that career. From there, I worked with, again, multinational organizations that honestly, they had headquarters here in Michigan, but they had a global footprint. So my role was to do exactly what I did for the nonprofit at a local level and do it on a global level with the commercial bank. And then now in my current role, I merged everything together, from personal finance to advising municipalities. Now I'm inside of a municipality, and I have the ability to fundraise for the city of Detroit in my current role. So my volunteer throughout my career, the volunteerism that I did outside of the role is now merged into an official role within the city of Detroit. So volunteerism, strategy, being strategic about where you volunteer, how you volunteer, and when you volunteer your time, is so critical to your career progression.
That's all great information. And I think that, the message you're putting out is to, one, volunteer and step outside of your comfort zones, two, to leverage resources and opportunities. And so I think that's all valuable information. The next question that we have kind of parlays into that, but it's all into the preparatory environment. And that's, do you have any good programs that you can teach the youth about finances and start thinking about that pipeline?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So, uh, all right. So should I put it in the chat or should I? Okay, well, I'll just start here. Money matters. If whoever asked that question, every year, FDIC has a money month where they deploy national strategy on how to navigate your finances, or whether you are a student in like fourth grade, like fourth grade, I think it is. It starts fourth or fifth grade, all the way to college and first time homeowners. But at the FDIC has an awesome program, but most banks, I'm not just going to say JP Morgan, but JP Morgan, Bank of America, Huntington has incredible programs that you can literally go into a branch. No exaggeration. Whoever asked that question, you can go into your local branch and ask, "Hey, I'm looking for a program to teach youth about finances," and they will have a wealth of resources. Because I serve on the board of, I'm gonna just say, because I serve on the board of Huntington Bank here in Michigan, shameless plug. They're a great organization that has many resources on teaching youth, and bankers that can teach youth on how to not just invest in the stock market, but how to open up a checking account, the basics, how to balance your budget, and then just thinking outside of the box. There are let's see, this is the University of Michigan. So the University of Michigan, financial aid department has wonderful people and resources that actually connect with youth on FAFSA. Man, the FAFSA was one of the biggest barriers because I'm a first generation college student and a college graduate and college student, and for me to even navigate that with my parents was a huge barrier. It was I think it was bigger for me, just me. It was bigger than the application itself, because it was a hairy monster that I didn't know what it was, and then how to afford college. So there's thinking outside of the box, if you will, but technically in the box is we're at U of M. The financial aid department is a great resource as well.
So I'm getting a lot of thank yous from the audience. And at the moment, I don't have any additional questions coming in. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll convey them over to Vance.
Perfect. And I'll continue and I'll wrap up with it was the last if you have questions, please feel free to ask, but the last objective was learning how to lead up by leading beyond your position and title. Learning how to lead up beyond your position and title. It was interesting when I was at the commercial bank, the last phase of my career at JP Morgan. Sometimes you would feel that you're hitting a ceiling or you're hitting a brick wall, and you just want to figure out if you're trying to start a nonprofit, if you're trying to move to the next phase, if you're trying to become an executive, you're trying to expand your role. It was interesting at JP Morgan, although I didn't hit the ceiling, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more outside of the bank. I wanted to combine my experience with personal finance, with wealth management, and then with commercial banking. And I wanted to combine them together and somehow help Detroit in a bigger way. Well, when this role came about, first it didn't exist. As a social impact officer, I have the privilege of serving as a fundraiser within the city of Detroit but the social impact office does not exist in any other municipality in America. And they created the role because at the time, they wanted to bring in resources to the city in a creative way. So instead of just philanthropic support, instead of corporate support, they wanted to ensure that individuals had the opportunity to contribute to the city. They wanted to ensure that businesses had the opportunity to contribute to the city. We wanted to cast our net wide. Well, in this career progression, to learning how to lead up, when I expressed everything that I did in the past, from the nonprofit work to the corporate development work to the professional development work, and then expressing I was a Cass Tech graduate, I had the privilege of growing up in Detroit. But now I think this is a opportune time to invest everything that I have into the city. So the role that I'm currently serving in now, I see it as an investment. I see it as a purpose-filled position where it's not just a role that I'm just I'm just not a 9-to-5. I have the opportunity to impact lives. I am a financial manager for the city. I help families, connect them with resources. I connect businesses with resources, nonprofits with resources. And as you become valuable to the city or to your community or to your organization, not only if your manager doesn't see or doesn't have an opportunity for you to move to the next level, there are opportunities that will open up as you continue to stay diligent and as you continue to sharpen your skill set, no matter what type of field you're in. I'm so grateful for all the questions that you guys had. And if you have any questions, Sandy, should I give my email address now, or should I send it to you guys and you guys blast it out? Or
I think we'll do both. Why don't you drop it in the chat, because I am getting a lot of questions of individuals who would like to know how they can contact and reach out to you. So your appointment book looks like it's going to fill up. But yeah, drop your contact details in the chat, and then we'll also go ahead and share that information broadly.
Perfect. I'll share that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to connect with you.
All right, you little doggies.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't hear that. Okay.
Somebody may have accidentally hit the
yeah, no worry. So like I said, I'm a father of 2 now, and that happens all the time with my babies. They'll press the mute button and it's all right. But thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Vance. And again, if people have questions, please send those to the Women of Color Task Force, and we can go ahead and try to get answers for you. Vance, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to get insight from you. It was a pleasure to get all of your experience and your advice on how we can continue to grow our careers. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.